Welcome to episode 97 of the BCF ORG podcast, The Business of Business. I'm Brian Fisher. In the previous episode, 96, our guest was Jim Bishop, discussing executive leadership growth. This podcast series is targeted to business owners and C-suite executives. It reflects my 34 years as a business owner and subsequent years as a business mentor and consultant. It focuses on the various subjects and topics to help you run a successful, profitable business. They're approximately 15 minutes long, so you can listen while commuting. Hopefully, you'll find one or two takeaways to implement per episode. Today's episode discusses internships with Robert Khoury. Based out of the greater Chicago area, Robert Khoury is the co-founder and CEO of Agile Rainmakers, a high-impact business development consulting and advisory firm. Rob's 20-plus year career in the financial industry has seen him in many roles: an equity derivatives trader, portfolio manager, corporate strategist, chief operating officer, recruiter, hedge fund executive, and private equity investor. Rob takes great pleasure in supporting college students and recent graduates in making career and life choices that support the fulfillment of their life's goals. He has mentored and hired many interns over the years and has a passion for ensuring their success. He has also led personal and professional development seminars for Landmark Worldwide. Rob earned a BSc in electrical engineering at Princeton University and his MBA in finance and international business from Duke University's Fuqua School of Business. Let's welcome Robert Khoury. Rob, welcome to the BCF ORG podcast, The Business of Business.
Brian, thanks so much for hosting me today.
Thanks for joining us today, Rob. Rob, I'm always interested in people's stories. What's your background in co-founding and being the CEO of Agile Rainmakers?
Well, I've worked at three different companies that grew extraordinarily well: a high-frequency trading firm, a recruiting firm, and a hedge fund. So I've done that in my past, and I've had a variety of roles: senior vice president of strategy, a founding partner. So I started a business called Agile Rainmakers, which combines all of that together, and I provide strategic business advice as a highly experienced and highly skilled entrepreneur and investor. And I also have created an internship program that I say is second to none.
That leads into this next question. This episode's topic is internships. What are some principles that make internships exceptional?
I wrote a book called Intern Management, and I outlined 9 principles that make internships exceptional. And let me just focus on 3. One is transparency. Students today, they want to know that they can trust you, and there is no better way to establish that than with transparency. Discovery. Make it an adventure, learning who the students really are and what they can do. It's also an opportunity to discover yourself as a manager and a role model for the next generation of leaders. And then lastly, I will say empowerment, when allowed to set their own objectives and to make their own choices. When they are supported through inevitable mistakes, they thrive. And when they know that you want them to win, literally is no limit to what they can do. So empowerment is key. So the 3, transparency, discovery, and empowerment, those are 3 of the 9 that I think make a huge difference in creating an exceptional internship.
I couldn't agree more with you, Rob, on empowerment. People really thrive when you give them a goal and objective and cut them loose.
Absolutely.
And let them do what they're going to do. But Rob, how can employers attract interns who are the best fit for their company?
I think fundamentally, the first thing you got to do is you got to align as a team what your intention is on having an intern, what you intend to accomplish, and, what exactly you are looking for in a student intern. So oftentimes, if you're not aligned internally, you're not going to attract the best. So have a couple of meetings. What are we looking for? What do we intend to accomplish with an internship? And now focus together as a team as far as what you're looking for. The second thing I'll say is just make sure that job posting that you put out there really emphasizes what an extraordinary opportunity is that you offer. and that only the best fit will intern with you. Set a really high standard. When you do that, you'll attract the very best. And I think a third point would be manage the interviewing process with the same level of integrity that you would for your best client. What does that mean? You get back to them in a timely way with feedback and information on the next steps in the interview process. You literally think about the interview process from the student's perspective, and you treat them as if they were your absolute best client.
We're speaking with Rob Khoury, co-founder and CEO of Agile Rainmakers. Rob, why is it important to have a routine for a successful internship?
Well, when I hear a routine, I think about consistency, just doing the same thing over and over. Well, that's how you will continually improve in whatever you're doing. So that routine is key. Routine is key in any endeavor that you would like to succeed in. You get better and better when things are thought out well in advance and then executed over and over. And you have an ethos of continual improvement. So that's really key, not just in bringing on an intern, but during the internship. What happens for the student is, or the intern, that routine reduces anxiety because they now know what to expect and they can manage themselves more effectively. All of this is new to them. So when you have a routine, they can kind of get grounded in who they are, how they fit in, and what there is to do. So it just makes all the sense in the world for me to have certain routines in place for a successful internship.
Well, Rob, all internships eventually end. What steps should managers take to prepare for the end of each internship?
I recommend about 3 weeks before the end of the internship that you schedule a meeting with your intern to discuss what's been accomplished and what's left to do, and then align on what will get done and what won't. So it's really key so that they're clear how to wrap it up. And if you don't do that, there may be a lot of stress and anxiety about some things that may not get done for whatever reason. Couldn't get the data, couldn't get the meeting, whatever it is, couldn't get clarity on something from management. So that's really important. About 3 weeks before it ends, let's look at what's been done, what's left to do, and let's figure out what we are going to do and what we're not going to do so that the internship ends in an empowering way. And then in those last 3 weeks, stay in communication throughout and aim for a completion date of all the tasks before the last date. That way you give them a little bit of a buffer to work with if things aren't exactly right. I would not have their capstone presentation or submittal of the final project be on the very last day. That's a recipe for disappointment if anything is off. And what I would also do in those last 3 weeks is give them a survey of their experience to fill out during that time and tell them, hey, I want you to really spend some time really thinking through how the internship was for you, what we could do better, all of those things, and give them a survey to give to their parents so that you can learn from their parents how the internship was for their child. These students, they go home to their parents every night after work and they share things. And it'd be nice to know, what does the parent think of the internship that you just provided for their child? That'd be very insightful. So I would give them a survey and give the parent a survey. Doesn't have to be anything long, but just something to get some data points in that regard. I've had dozens of interns, and every one of them, their parents have filled out a survey at the very end. And then the last thing I would suggest is schedule a follow-up call for a couple of months after the internship, just to see how they're doing, keep that relationship going. It signals you care about them. It signals that you are interested in what happens next for them. So those are just a few of the things I would recommend in ending an internship on a high note.
That's a very interesting concept about giving the parents a survey. I bet you get some very interesting comments or replies.
I do. They are highly varied. Some are very terse responses, and it tells me the parents maybe weren't so involved, or their child doesn't really say much to them about what they're doing. And then I get some where it's just paragraphs and it's all kinds of details. And you read that and you're like, wow, this is frankly amazing that they have that kind of relationship with their child, that they're really appreciating what we're delivering for their child. This is great. So you're right. It's a whole spectrum of responses from the parents. And I love it because I just think, when they're interning, they're still at home and they're talking a lot, and there's a lot of insight to be gathered in how to improve the internship. So it makes perfect sense to me.
Well, Rob, what results or lessons learned have you seen with businesses that have implemented your recommendations and internships?
Well, anecdotally, I've heard there is lots of ease around the delivery of internships. So folks I know that run organizations who've read both books, How to Intern Successfully for the Student and Intern Management for the Manager, they will tell me after the internship, they'll say, I don't know what it is, Rob, but this past summer's internship was so easy. I felt so freed up. Everything worked really well. And it wasn't a grind. It wasn't a hardship or anything like that. So there's this sense of ease that happens in kind of implementing some of these principles, whether consciously or unconsciously. And then the other thing I've learned is the client feedback we've had has been overwhelmingly positive, and that interns enjoy the process, and their surveys say so. And what I've learned also is when you deliver an internship really intentionally, you end up developing long-term relationships with many of these students, and you stay in touch for years. So I have interns that it's been years, like 4 or 5 years since they interned with me, and we're still in touch. In fact, one of them was over at my house a week and a half ago for a little birthday gathering. So this is a real opportunity to develop relationships that are long lasting. And that's one of the things I didn't really think much about at the time. And it's definitely a lesson I've learned in implementing a internship program that I'm really proud of and that I would love for folks to deliver.
We're speaking with Rob Khoury, co-founder and CEO of Agile Rainmakers. Rob, is there anything I've not asked that you'd like to add?
Well, Brian, I'm out to bring dignity to the internship discourse. I'm writing 4 books on this matter. Intern Management Principles for Designing an Exceptional Internship is the second book in a 4-book series. The first book I mentioned, How to Intern Successfully, Insights and Actions to Optimize Your Experience. That one's for students. It helps them get out of their own way with regards to anxiety, fear of failure. There's lots of great exercises in there that have them be way more productive. The next book coming out is going to be about mentoring interns. What are the kinds of conversations you have with the interns today? How do you help them move through their growth and development process with you? And then the last book, you're going to love this, Brian. It's about parenting an intern. And how does someone parent an intern? What are the conversations to have? How do you support them? What do you do? What don't you do? And a lot of those surveys that I mentioned will be the basis for all the work that we'll be doing to write the final book in the series, Parenting an Intern. And then in my mind, there's a 4-book series, one for the student, one for the manager, one for the mentor, one for the parent. And this 4-book series will be a real useful set to support any student in winning in their internship. Everyone will be involved in the internship, and everyone who's involved will be empowered for success. So that's what I'm up to here.
Rob, how can people get in contact with you?
My email is robert@agilerainmakers.com. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. On Instagram, we have a real fun page called Intern versus Manager, Intern vs Manager. I had an intern do it, and within, no kidding, within 2 weeks, we had 60,000 followers. It's absolutely incredible. But
wow.
Yeah, oh, Brian, it's amazing. We're coaching through these fun videos. We're acting. We're doing all sorts of things to lighten it up. And last week, you can get in touch with me is on our webpage to agilerainmakers.com, and then also robertjkhoury.com, more for the books.
Rob, thank you for joining us today on the BCF ORG podcast, The Business of Business.
Thank you, Brian. Real pleasure.
My sincere thanks for Rob Khoury for joining us today. Managing the performance of your company is one of the most important things you do as a leader. This podcast is on YouTube and over 20 podcast directories. Subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcast. In search, type BCF ORG. Be sure to leave a space between BCF and ORG. If you'd like to reach out to me for business consulting or with any questions, comments, ideas, or potentially be a guest, like Rob, please go to bcforg.com. There's a red Contact Us button in the middle of the homepage. A LinkedIn symbol's on the upper right. Click on that if you'd like to see my profile. All the podcasts are available by clicking on the website podcast page in the reference bar. These podcasts will be released the first and third Tuesday each month. In the next episode, 98, our guest will be Mike Maynard, discussing Marketing Plus. In business, running a successful, profitable business is the ultimate scorecard. You're never done and can always be better. It tends to be more fun than work, frustrating at times, but can be very rewarding. From BCF ORG Corp., I'm Brian Fisher, wishing you the best. Thanks.